Hello, my name is Paul Bartlett. I'm a wood turner here in Southwest Florida. I've wanted to do a video on the ribbon Streptohedrons. I've done many of them, and so this video is going to be about how I do these ribbons, and these are the two that I did, so I'm going to show you how I make those. Alright, I'm going to try to do a video here showing you how I make my ribbon Streptohedrons. I have a bunch of bowls here that I made up that I'm going to try different versions of it, but I'm going to try to just video one way to make kind of the simpler one, and I haven't done that before. So what I do is I make up, you need two bottomless bowls to create your half of your ribbon. So you turn these bowls, and the important part is that from the outside edge to here, as I mentioned in some other videos, to the edge of the hole has to be 45 degrees. So what I do is I make these up, I rough turn them, and I find out what diameter I'm going to end up with, and then I will show you on paper how I get this 45 degree. I get it by opening or closing, or opening this hole up. Right now I'm going to start with a 2-inch hole, which you'll see me bore. So this is what I do. Here's one, and I'm using always for the past 2 or 3 years I've been doing all of my glue ups, most of them, with the wedges on and if you need to see how I do that, check out my channel on YouTube and look at the BB stave method. I explain in detail how I do something like this. So now I actually have 2 of these bowls ready to go into the lathe. Very, very little turning at this point. Okay, but this is the rough one just out of the glue. Here's another one. I have a couple of these. I'm going to try something different. But this all the same wedges. This is just soft maple here. I have quite a few of these, which is walnut, and I made just 1 or 2 passes to clean up the outside to drill the bore 2-inch hole. I'll show you that right here. So using my cold jaws. What I did first with this was on the sander, on my disc sander, I sanded this pretty flat, so that, and then I ran it through my drum sander and sanded the top off till it was level. And I did that with all of them. I'm just using a 5/8 Ellsworth grind chisel. So it's about 10-1100. As you can see, all it takes is like one pass, maybe two, to clean up the outside with the, if you had regular segments here, it would be a lot more turning. So, now I'm going to bore a 2-inch hole in here. It'll probably end up being bigger than 2, but for right now, I'm doing 2-inch holes. Get out about 400 or 500 for this. Okay, now what I do, because I'm doing 2 of these, and you got to keep them the same, everything the same on them, because when you cut them in half, turn them around to make your ribbon, if they're not right, it won't work. What I do right now is I just measure inside, see what my height is on them. That's about 2.45. All right, I have my bowls here. I'm ready to turn the outside with my sphere turner. Got outside radius. And once I get that where I want it, I'll be using my other internal sphere turner to do the inside diameter. So right now I know that I wanted my finished ribbon Streptohedron when it's done, all done, to be in approximately 7 1/4 inches in diameter. That's after it's assembled. So on a paper, I drew a 7 1/4 inch circle. Okay, and to make the bottom hole in these bowls, that's kind of a starting point, and I usually make it something less than 1/3 of this 7 1/4. In this case, I made them 2 inches. The bottom hole 2 inches. So I've bored it, cleaned things up, and bored that bottom hole out to 2 inches. Now I can change that and make that bigger if my diameter changes a little bit. So with a 7 1/4 inch diameter, I don't know if you can see this, probably not, and a 2-inch hole, if I run a 45-degree line up to where it intersects the circle, it makes my bowl 2.48 high, almost 2.5 inches high. So, and that's what I've got. Now I'm going to turn this at a 7 1/4 inch diameter around the not radius. It'll be 3 5/8 radius from my center point here on my sphere jig to the cutter. It may get a little bit smaller, so I may have to change the height or the hole size. That's an option I will have in the future. So let me just get going here. Maybe you'll understand it a little bit better. I made these up for my bowls. Right now I'm holding it from the inside. So I hot glued it in to the inside, and put some hot glue around here, a few little tacks on the inside. that's how I have this one mounted. So let's do some turning here. Okay, that's all I'm going to take off of that. That just gets it trued up to a true radius. I'll just sand that up now a little bit and take it off of there and do the second one. I have the outsides of both bowls turned here now, and what I did after the first ones, I made up a template, and this is probably I should have done before I even started the turning of the first one. But it's very important that both bowls be exactly the same and the same wall thickness all the way through. Otherwise, you can have a lot of file to fit the function, should I say? And so I made up a template to be sure that both bowls are the same. And as you can see, it fits pretty good. Okay, and if I had made my first one, I could have made it to this template and here. And even if you don't have a sphere cutter, you can use a template and slowly creep up on your fit. You know, once you take too much, you're done. So that's kind of why I use a sphere cutter. Seems though whenever I do it by hand, you know, one little area would be too deep or something. With a sphere cutter, it keeps everything nice and true radius. So now I have this is another second bowl, and I'm going to turn the inside. Okay, and I have a internal sphere cutter which I use for this, but you also could make the reverse template of what I just showed you that would fit inside here. You know, and turn it without, I don't think anybody that I know of has an internal sphere turner. I got thinking about it, and I've done so many of these, and getting wall thickness perfect is very, very difficult, and creates problems at the assembly stage. So I decided I wanted to make a sphere cutter that would cut the internal part of a sphere, or in this case a bowl, but it'll go up as far as half a circle. And I will show you that in a minute. But first of all, what I do here now is I have this bowl is now reversed on my tenon here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rough out the inside of this bowl to get down to, I'm shooting for 1/4 of an inch finished wall thickness all the way through. So I'm going to turn it down to I get maybe 5/16 showing out here. And then I'll put my internal sphere turner in and slowly make cuts with that, which you'll see here in a minute. So right now, I'm just going to put that in there. And here again, with this type of BB stave construction, there's very, very little turning. You know, all I'm doing now is trying to get a wall thickness. As you saw on the outside, I only made just a very few passes to get where I needed to go. That's one of the great things about it. So, get this out of here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see over my shoulder here, but okay. I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera, but I'm not sure if I can or not. Okay, that's about all I need to do there. Now another thing I found by doing these, if we get down to 1/4 of an inch, this wall starts flexing. And then when you use the sphere cutter on the inside, it's doing that and chipping out. So alright, had to back up a little bit on this video here. As you'll notice, I started out with maple bowls I had, but I had a lot of bowls ready to do different things with. And my maple bowls got awful thin, and I was getting a lot of flex and some tear out. So I need to keep my wall thickness thicker, and I'm going to try to keep it at around 3/8 of an inch. That way it should eliminate any flex that I'm having, and it should work much better. I've trued up the outside of both bowls, as you saw in the previous video. And now I had a template here, and I'm using the template so to get both bowls exactly the same, and I get a 45, and it's similar as the same radius as what I was doing on the maple anyway. And now when I put another way to check, and this is a good way, if you have a protractor or any 90-degree square that has the numbers coming off the inside going out both ways, if you take this, you probably won't be able to see this, and you put it on there, and where your edge of your bowl and the edge of your hole meet, if they're same on both sides, you're good. You're 45 degrees because this is 90. So when I first did this one, it was a little bit longer on this side here. So I took off almost 1/8 of an inch here. And right now, I've got like 2 5/16 on both sides. So that tells me I've got a good 45 degree between them. And when I look at the radius looks good. Not absolutely perfect, but it looks pretty good. So the next step now will be to take these off, turn them around, mount them on here, and use my internal sphere cutter, which you'll see shortly. I don't think anybody else has one of those. I've never seen one, and it works okay. You know, probably could be refined by somebody and have a much better one. Even I think because of the inside, I possibly need a different cutter. But we'll get out to all that soon. So for right now, I just wanted to catch you up and show you that. Okay, I have my bowls turned around, remounted, and now I'm going to just rough turn the inside before I put my internal sphere turner in there. So let's see how that works. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this, as I said before, to 3/8 of an inch. So right now I'm very close to that out here. And when I meet my tenon piece here in the middle, I know that is only in 3/8, so that'll give me 3/8 on both sides, top and bottom. So, okay, let's put the sphere jig in, and I will show you a little bit how that works. This is my contraption I came up with. I'm using the cutter in it. It's the same cutter that I use on the outside. I think someday I might figure out a better cutter for the inside, but for right now I'm still going to use this one. And that just goes in here. And what I found out on the first one I made, when I first tried this, I didn't have this support under here. So when I turned it, as soon as it touched the wood in here, there was play in there, and the bolt hole and anything else, and it would grab. You would not even cut. So I ended up cobbled up this support here to give me support under this cutter holder all the way. And I have 3 different size cutter holders. I have a larger one I made here, and then I have this one. I have a smaller one. So the smaller one I'm not sure is going to be able to work here. I haven't had to use it yet, so we'll fix that when we get to it. And originally I was making this bar so that it would go this way, but now with everything glued up here, that's not happening. So alright, I've set this up now to where my cutter is just touching on the inside and missing on the outside here a little bit, so it looks like it should finish up where I want. So let's see if it's going to work. have my bowls all made up, turned inside out, outside. I've got a good 45 degrees here, checking as I showed you earlier in the video. So these bowls look good. They're probably somewhere between 3/8 or 5/16 wall thickness. And remember the maple ones I started with, I kind of salvaged them, and sort of one of them tore out so bad on the inside that I couldn't do much with it, so I ended up covering up my chip out and everything with textured paint. And so I think the bowls themselves look good for wall thickness, and my 45 degree from top to bottom. So other than the trying my internal sphere cutter, which didn't work, I got two here, so I think maybe I can salvage some of those. So the next step here is to split these bowls in half. And all I have for that is a simple jig here, runs on my miter slot on the bandsaw. I've just got a 1/4 inch 6-tooth blade in there, one I use for almost everything. So I just put this in here. I try to line it up, and it's hard to see on this one, but into the middle of one of my wedges. Not really important, but helps it look better in the final assembly. So here we go. Let's try and slice one. So the way this is going to go together is like this. And if you can see, this looks very, very good. A little bit of sanding like to do on the inside. So 2 of those and we'll have our ribbon. I'm ready to glue these up now, and the way I do it is I put a couple pieces of tape on the back here, or on the outside I should say, and then I spread it apart, put glue in here and hold it. There's no real good way to clamp these at this point, so I just hold it. The tape will keep it in place. Just hold it for a couple minutes while the glue sets. I think you can see at this point why the uniform wall thickness is so important, because at this point I'm putting the small end, I call it, the bottom of the bowl, and matching it up with the top of the bowl. And that gives us half of our ribbon. So if you were thicker at the bottom and thinner here, then when you turn those around, now you've got to sand the whole joint. You got to sand both ends and probably the middle. So that's the reason for uniform thickness and the 45 degrees. If this was any other degree, when you put these together, your piece would be out, when you put these together, the piece would be out somewhere like that, and it'll never come together in the end. So 45 degrees, uniform wall thickness, you get those two right, you're probably gonna get good results. So here we go, I've got these taped together, and I'm gonna put the glue on and see what happens. Don't want to use a lot of glue because I need it to set up fairly quick. So that's pretty much it. The outsides look pretty good. I have the two halves of my ribbon glued together, glued up, and now I'm going to do the final assembly. But before that, if there's any cleanup to do, and there probably will be some if you did a good job with the making of the bowls, it wouldn't be a whole lot. So I would clean up on the inside wherever it needs to be and maybe throw another coat of finish on there. And when you glue these up, as I've learned by experience, they both have to be, I don't know if you can see that, the same. In other words, see how this one's this way, this one's the same way? Now if I would have taken this piece and put it on this end, they won't go together. And trust me, they won't go together. I know that. So they end up going together like this. Okay, you can see that. This is that end there, and then the one on the bottom. Okay, so I kind of use the same method here. I've got the walnut ready to go. I had to sand a little bit on the inside, not a whole lot. Be nice if it was a little less, but it wasn't. So I have the bottom joint taped. I'm only going to do one joint at a time. Turn the air compressor on. By doing one joint at a time, you got better control than trying to hold two together. I don't even know if I could. So I taped the bottom one, and then I'm at the top one here. I'm going to put, as you can see, it's kind of where they ended up. There's some flexion here, so you know, you should be able to get them to match up pretty good. So now I'm going to just put glue in this joint and tape it shut and let it dry. And I'll do the same thing with the maple one here. So here we go. that even. Force that tape on there. I think these little clamps at the end help some. Oh yeah. So that's pretty much it. Here they are, all glued up except the last joint, and you can see that's the last joint there, and that's just in the free state. That comes almost up perfect. Don't always come out like that. Sometimes they come out like this or worse. You can see, but that just takes nothing to pull that back into place, and we'll glue it up. So we're gonna glue the last joint on these and clean them up, figure out how I'm gonna mount them, and we'll see. Okay, I have these ribbons done, these two ribbons done. They came out pretty good. I don't know if you can see, I get that over here in the light a little bit. You can move this over, and came out pretty good. I've done a lot of these, and usually when it comes to the assembly part, if things aren't quite right, it's difficult to put together. A lot of sanding. These went together as good as any I've ever, better than any I've ever done. So I just mounted on a little stand here, and this is the maple one that I had problems with on the inside of the chipping out, so I put a textured paint in there. Looks like I'm trying to hide something, and I am, so but I wanted to finish it up anyway because this one fit really good. I think I have the answer in the future. Will use my internal sphere cutter, as I mentioned and showed a couple times in the video, but I will do the inside, use it on the inside first before I turn the outside. That way it doesn't get too thin and start to vibrate. And then when I do the outside, I'll support it with a cone on the inside, and I think that's going to solve my problem with my sphere cutter. So that's that, and so anyway, thank you for watching the video.